Salutations, fellow nerds and wise folk. I'm Rick Y, the wise guy, and today is December 26th, 2024, and I thought that given how many news stories were flooding the stream, I would try to refrain, given the time of the year and the holidays. Doom scrolling in front of a brightly lit Christmas tree doesn't really feel right. By putting content out yesterday, I would have eventually felt bad for having encouraged folk to stare at my ugly mug instead of being with their family. Just figured, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent. I also heard through the grapevine that Donald Trump released a statement for Christmas that is, wow. Digging his heels into the ground and doubling down on absorbing Canada, Panama, and Greenland is not what I had on my bingo card this soon, I must admit. But he did so with both bluster and lies that should be addressed and sifted through. I will certainly be picking through that one in a little while, but instead of being so dark and negative, I thought I would touch base on some other news that will help us shine new light on future science and cosmology and kind of really parse out for my viewers just how significant this specific achievement has been so far. So NASA sent a probe toward the sun at speeds that we have never reached with any man-made object and got so close to the star that it passed right through its cornhola. What? Corona. So if you enjoy news, history, or just Americana in general, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'd be much obliged. In 2009, designing one of arguably the most enduring pieces of human technology began at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, where a bunch of hero-level nerds came up with the idea of creating and designing a probe that they could fly closer to the sun than any other craft known to man. 9 years later, the spacecraft named after Professor Emeritus at the University of Chicago, Eugene Newman Parker, launched out of Cape Canaveral, Florida. Eugene Parker wrote an exquisite paper in 1958 which caused the real scientific interest in this project all the way back then. The paper detailed solar magnetic fields that are on the sun's surface and how they create a field of disorder due to instabilities of the plasma and its interaction with the solar phenomena. The technological feat of this spacecraft and its engineering cannot be understated. Interestingly enough, it also had a plaque with the names of 1.1 million of us naked apes here on Earth. One of those names being that of yours truly. The process to starting to find the answers to this was monumental. First, scientists at NASA had to get the Parker Solar Probe into Earth's orbit. Then, using a maneuver called the Hohmann transfer, so as to reduce what is called a perihelion and lower the orbital energy of the spacecraft. Don't worry, that's the most technical that I think I'm going to get. Basically, what this means is every spacecraft that goes into space is in a circular orbit around the sun. To get further from the sun, you need to change the direction and energy of your spacecraft accordingly to the gravity that each of the celestial bodies creates. Anyone who's played Kerbal Space Program will completely understand this, sometimes infuriating part of space flight. How they achieved this was by flying the spacecraft toward and through Venus's gravitational influence. It has a lower mass and was a perfect candidate with which to use a steering and navigational body, especially due to its short distance from the sun itself. The material that they use to create a flat surface that they aim at the sun and shield the spacecraft itself from the tremendous heat of the star is a carbon foam. Under an electron microscope, the foam looks like a sponge. It is this super porous design, and this isn't by accident. It creates an area of around 97% empty space. This creates a phenomenal thermal insulator, along with adding even more carbon to all of the sides of the foam and then superheating it. They fused all of the carbon together evenly. They then coated the shield with a white ceramic paint so as to try and reflect as much heat away from it before it could even reach the carbon foam shield. All of the technological components that make the probe what it is all hide behind that shield, in its shadow. Aside from, of course, the data gathering portions like the solar probe cup that they use to measure the sun's electromagnetic outputs. The materials within this thing and its abilities are mind-blowing, and the tech itself could use its own video. Basically, it can withstand the worst conditions the sun can deliver with machined parts from human hands. I really love our species. We are annoyingly intelligent. This probe doesn't just dip once, twice, or 3 times into the sun's corona so as to measure information. No, this little bad boy will fly a staggering 23 different times and will log an astounding 900 hours of raw data through the hottest parts of the sun's exterior and hopefully shed more light on our closest star in ways that we as laymen yet can't fathom. Not only are we going to get raw electromagnetic and heat data, scientists hope to find and be able to forecast what are known as solar storms or flares that can damage electronic components here on Earth. While there really isn't any feasible way with which to block Earth from those powerful flares without creating an additional artificial magnetosphere. This is admittedly a difficult task, given that we don't yet even have the means to create a Dr. Xavier sphere. The Parker Solar Probe just lost temporary contact with NASA, which is a normal thing for its proximity to the sun itself, as it entered the corona this past Christmas Eve at a breakneck 435,000 miles per hour or 700,000 kilometers per hour. At this speed, you could get from Manhattan to San Francisco in 22 seconds. You would also arrive as a hot ball of plasma, as the friction of our atmosphere would engulf you in flame and melt you down to your base elements, probably faster than it takes for your brain to even recognize that you're in motion. This makes it the fastest human-made spacecraft or object ever created. Beyond the nerdiness involved in the engineering and the mission itself, how is this going to help us on Earth? While you're doom-scrolling this holiday season, try to remember that everything that we depend upon in our modern society is electronic and most likely tied to the internet. Even refrigerators are becoming compatible. And with that comes risk factors. And one risk factor that we need to constantly be aware of and have an observation on 100% of the time is how solar flares can and do disrupt the grid and the tools that can help us maintain a level of modern living that we all enjoy. If we were able to detect or even predict these cycles, we would be able to better defend ourselves and our modern and futuristic lifestyles. Even basic electronics can be taken out entirely by a large enough solar flare, which is by some scientists' observation a matter of if, not when. So the importance of the knowledge here could be very crucial in the efforts to improve as a society across the globe, as a human society. It can also help us navigate the difficulties that go along with any consistent, long-term, cosmic journeys. The human species is on the cusp of becoming our next greatest phase in social evolution. Actual sustained space travel. A future less like Dune and more like Star Trek is at our collective fingertips. The only way that we can help allow that mindset to thrive is by staying informed, staying engaged, and staying decent. So until next time, y'all come back now. You hear?